My ex dumped me after I raised her kids for 6 years and paid their school. Now she's begging for child support, but I adopted them legally first. I'm a 29-year-old guy, and for most of my adult life, I was certain I didn't want kids. I grew up with a dad who never showed up, and a mom who was so exhausted I felt more like a burden than a blessing. So I figured, why repeat that cycle? Then I met Dana. We matched on a dating app, nothing serious at first. Her profile said she was a single mom, 2 kids. I almost swiped left. I wish I could say I had some noble reason for giving it a chance, but honestly, her smile just made me stop. On our second date, she told me flat out, I don't need a dad for them. I just want someone who understands I'm not solo by choice. I respected that. She was transparent, strong, tired, but not bitter. And those kids? The first time I met them, her daughter Mia hid behind her leg and peeked at me like I was a cartoon. Her son Jordan offered me a bite of his goldfish crackers 5 minutes in. Something shifted. I didn't rush into it. At first, I was just the mom's friend who showed up with coloring books and juice boxes. But weekends turned into school runs, bedtime stories, screaming at 2 a.m. because of night terrors. Dana would text me midday, Jordan asked if you're coming to soccer practice. And suddenly, I was rearranging my schedule to make it. I wasn't even trying to be their dad. I just was, not legally, not by blood, but emotionally. Fully. I remember once, after a scraped knee, Mia looked up at me crying and said, "Can I call you Daddy, or is that just for real ones?" And I just froze, smiled, nodded. "Yeah, sweetheart, you can call me that." I didn't know it yet, but that title was going to cost me more than I ever imagined. By our 3rd year together, I was paying for everything. It started small. Dana needed help with groceries one week. Then it was rent, then daycare. I picked up extra shifts at the warehouse, thinking, this is what real men do, right? Provide, protect, be present. And it felt good at first. I'd never been needed like this before. When Dana said she wanted to go back to school to finish her degree, I was proud of her. "I've always wanted to be a nurse," she told me, blinking back tears. "But no one ever believed in me. Until you..." So I stepped up, took on weekend shifts, sold my car, and started biking to work to save on gas. Every sacrifice felt worth it when I came home to Mia's handmaid. Best dad ever drawings, or Jordan falling asleep on my shoulder during movie nights. But slowly, something shifted. Dana stopped saying thank you. The kids still loved me, but Dana, she started acting like all this was just expected. Her mom once said during a barbecue, "Wow, you're still with Dana." Most guys would have run by now. She laughed. Everyone laughed. I laughed, awkward, tight-lipped. One night, I brought it up. "Do you feel like I'm appreciated?" She barely looked up from her phone. "Babe, why are you being so sensitive lately?" That word sensitive hit like a slap. I wasn't asking for praise, just acknowledgement. I noticed more things. Dana going out more often with school friends, locking her phone, ignoring texts. I chalked it up to stress. But the worst part, her family started calling me Super Dad, not as a compliment. As a joke, she's got a free nanny, free rent, and a man who cooks. "Girl, you're winning the lottery." I smiled when they said it, but deep down, I started to wonder, was I really building a future, or just funding someone else's escape plan? By year 4, I was doing school drop-offs, meal prepping, bedtime routines, everything a real dad does. Except, no one ever used that word unless it was convenient. Father's Day came around, and Dana posted a photo of me helping Jordan with his science project. The caption said, "Shout out to the best bonus dad, not biologically, but still awesome." Bonus dad. That word dug under my skin like a splinter. Not dad, not partner. Bonus. When I told her it stung a bit, she rolled her eyes. "You're being weird. It's a sweet post." Sweet, right, like sugar dusted over resentment. The kids didn't see it that way. They called me Daddy without hesitation. Jordan once introduced me at school as my real dad, even though it's not on paper. My heart nearly burst. But that paper, it mattered. So one night, I brought it up at Adoption Dana. I said, "I want to make this official. I want to adopt them." She froze. "Why?" "Because I love them. And if something ever happened, they have me." She cut in. "It's not necessary." I waited for a better explanation, but none came. That night, I stared at the ceiling while she snored beside me, a wall between us that didn't used to be there. I wasn't trying to take over. I just wanted to belong in the only family I'd ever truly felt part of. But now I wondered, was I more convenient than loved? At Jordan's birthday, her cousin joked, "Man, he's more involved than the real dad ever was." Dana laughed a little too hard, too long. She didn't deny it. It was a laugh I'd never forget, because later that night, I saw the truth in her smile. And it wasn't joy, it was relief, like someone coasting on borrowed time. Dana graduated nursing school in the spring. I stood in the back of the auditorium holding a bouquet the kids picked out sunflowers, her favorite. Mia clutched my leg, and Jordan kept tugging on my arm, asking when we could yell, "Yay, Mom!" When they finally called her name, she walked across the stage, glowing, beaming like the woman I first met. I felt proud, like we both had earned that diploma. But something shifted after that day. Suddenly, she didn't need me to pick the kids up. She started working extra shifts at least that's what she said. Her phone, once always face up, started living in her purse. Notifications were hidden. Calls answered in another room. I asked her once, carefully, "Everything okay between us?" She smiled, tight, robotic. "Just tired, babe. New job, new routine." But her lips felt colder when we kissed, her hugs shorter. She stopped watching movies with us at night, always catching up on notes in the bedroom. Then came the clothed new dresses, new heels. Nights out with school friends that ran longer and longer. I'd ask when she'd be home. "Don't wait up," she'd say, keys already in hand. The kids didn't notice it at first, but I did. One night, she forgot her phone on the kitchen counter. It buzzed once, twice. I glanced. A message preview lit the screen. "He still thinks we're forever." My throat closed. I picked the phone up. The contact was saved under a man's name I didn't recognize. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. My hands were shaking when she walked in. She saw me, saw the phone in my hand, and smiled. Not guilty, not nervous, just calm, like this was always going to happen. And she'd simply been waiting for me to catch up. 2 days later, she asked me to sit down after the kids went to bed. Her tone was rehearsed. Her eyes didn't meet mine. She sat on the edge of the couch like she couldn't wait to stand back up. "I think we need space," she said softly. I blinked. "From what? From this USI? I feel like I've outgrown who we used to be." I stared at her, trying to register what the hell she was saying. "Outgrown?" She exhaled, annoyed. "Don't make this harder than it has to be, okay?" I almost laughed. I'd sold my car, skipped family holidays, paid for field trips and school supplies and new shoes when Jordan hit a growth spurt. And now she was cutting me out like expired milk. "What about the kids?" I asked, voice cracking. "They're resilient. They'll adjust, just like that." Cold, final, detached. I slept in my truck that night. Couldn't bear the thought of waking up and packing bags while Jordan clung to my leg, or Mia cried because I missed Pancake Sunday. The next morning, I came in before school. Dana let me, didn't say a word. Jordan ran into my arms so hard he knocked the wind out of me. "Are you coming to my soccer game Friday?" I looked at Dana. She looked at her coffee. "Probably not, bud," I whispered. "Why?" He looked genuinely hurt. I didn't know how to explain that love doesn't always make you family. As I walked out, I saw her phone light up again on the counter. Same name, same smirk on her face. I realized then this wasn't about space. It wasn't about growth. She'd moved on. I was just the last one to find out. I thought that was the end. I moved in with a buddy from work, crashed on his couch for a few weeks. It felt like grief, like someone had died. I'd catch myself setting reminders for Jordan's dentist appointment or thinking about Mia's favorite cereal at the grocery store. Then remembering none of that mattered anymore. They weren't mine. Not really. But I had forgotten something. Something I'd filed away months ago, literally. Back when Dana was still studying and I was juggling the household, I'd started the legal process to adopt the kids. She'd agreed, signed some preliminary paperwork, said, "We'll talk about it more when I graduate." I guess she didn't think I'd actually follow through, but I did. And now, 6 weeks after the breakup, I got a certified letter in the mail. Finalized, adoption order granted. My knees nearly gave out. I read it twice, 3 times. My name, their names, everything real, everything binding. Their legal father. I didn't know what to feel. Relief? Fear? Power. I sat with it for a day. Then I called Dana. She answered like nothing had happened. "What do you want?" "I need to talk about the kids," I said carefully. Legally, her voice shifted. "What do you mean?" "I adopted them. It's finalized. I have the papers." Silence. Then a dry laugh. "Are you serious? You think that means something?" She hung up. An hour later, her lawyer called me. Suddenly, she wanted to talk. Suddenly, I wasn't just the guy she left behind. I was a legal threat for the first time since the breakup. I wasn't powerless. I didn't know it yet, but this twist was going to change everything. Not just for her, for the kids, for the courts, for the war that was about to begin. 2 days after that call from her lawyer, Dana texted me. "Hey, let's talk in person. Just us. No lawyer, no legalese. Just her, trying to reel me in with soft bait." I agreed, but I wasn't stupid. I met her at a public diner. Same place we used to take the kids after soccer games. Except this time, there were no crayon drawings on napkins. No shared fries. Just us, sitting across from each other like strangers in a custody battle. She smiled too quickly. Talked about old times, said she'd been overwhelmed lately. Said the kids missed me, especially Mia, that she'd been thinking. I waited, then it came. "If you rescind the adoption, we can make this easier. For everyone." I didn't flinch. "Easier for who?" I asked, voice low. Her eyes narrowed. The mask dropped. "You think you can just keep them? They're not your blood." "No," I said. "But legally, they're mine, and I love them. That's more than you can say for half the time you were out studying." She leaned in, voice sharp. "You're not built for this, Mark. You're playing house with kids that aren't yours. You think a few bedtime stories make you a parent?" I stood up. "You're right," I said. It wasn't the bedtime stories. It was being there when they were sick, broke a bone, or cried for someone to hold them. It was staying while you kept walking away. I left her sitting there with her untouched iced tea and that tight, furious smile. I didn't have a plan, but I had something she didn't. Anymore, the truth and the law. What I didn't know was how far she'd go to flip both against me. After I walked out of that diner, I thought she'd back off. I was wrong. She started slow, subtle jabs through the kids. Mia stopped calling. Jordan wouldn't pick up my FaceTime calls. I sent messages, left voicemails, even mailed letters with little Pac-Man stickers I knew they'd love. Nothing. Then the lies started. A teacher from their school emailed me, confused. Dana had told the staff I was no longer in the picture and to remove me from the emergency contact list. When I called to correct them, the administrator apologized awkwardly. She said, "You were stalking the kids and had no legal rights." I had to fax in my court documents just to prove I wasn't a stranger at work. It got worse. One afternoon, Dana showed up at my job. I was on lunch, sitting in the parking lot when she pulled up, kids in the back seat, windows up. She got out, fake smile, arms crossed, like she was about to start a PTA meeting. "I need child support," she said bluntly. "You're legally their father now, remember." I blinked. "What?" She shrugged. "You think you can adopt them and not pay? You're on the hook now. Might as well be useful." I tried to stay calm, but my hands were shaking. My supervisor walked out mid-conversation, sensing the tension. Dana immediately changed her tone. "Is this where you work?" she asked sweetly. Good to know. I felt exposed, like my entire life was now a chessboard. She was manipulating piece by piece. I went to my lawyer that same week. "She's trying to weaponize your love for them," he said. "You're not in a custody battle anymore. You're in a control war," and she was just getting started. The next envelope I received in the mail would prove that, because Dana wasn't just attacking my reputation, she was coming for my wallet. I came home from work to find a thick white envelope wedged into my mailbox, legal letterhead, stamped and sealed. I already knew what it was before I opened it. Dana had officially filed for child support for her kids, the ones I had raised, paid for, read to sleep, the ones she kept from me unless it benefited her. And now, after cutting me out, emotionally manipulating the kids, and showing up at my job like some soap opera villain, she had the audacity to demand money like I was a deadbeat. I sat on the edge of my bed, reading the paperwork over and over. My name, the claim. The backdated support she wanted 6 months' worth from the date of the adoption. Thousands of dollars. I called my lawyer, voice trembling. She's saying I haven't paid a cent. He sighed, long and slow. Do you have receipts? Of course I do, I snapped. I practically funded their childhood. He told me to gather everything. Every Venmo, every tuition invoice, every backpack, every doctor's bill. But here's the thing, half of it was cash, gifts, school lunches, rent covered under the table. You don't keep records when you love someone, you just give. And she was counting on that in court. Her lawyer painted a picture of me as a reckless adoptive dad who had romanticized responsibility but failed to follow through. Dana even teared up as she said, he wanted to be a father, but not a provider. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I just passed my attorney a stack of folders. Let's talk about who really provided. The judge gave us time to prepare evidence. A delay, but it wasn't enough to stop the feeling in my gut that I was about to lose the very people I'd sacrificed everything for. Then came the twist I never saw coming. A ghost from Dana's past suddenly reappeared. The universe has a twisted sense of timing. Exactly 1 week before our next court date, I got a message on Facebook from a profile I didn't recognize. No photo, just a name, L. Hernandez. The message was short. We need to talk. I think you adopted my kids. My blood ran cold. I clicked on the profile, scrolled. No real posts, just a few old photos. But then I saw a grainy image of Jordan at age 2, sitting in a man's lap who had his exact same eyes. I nearly dropped my phone. I replied immediately. We set up a call. His name was Luis. He'd dated Dana almost a decade ago. Said she cut him off, suddenly told him the kids weren't his and moved cities. He only found out through a mutual friend's post that she'd finally moved on and had a new man raising her children. He didn't even know they'd been adopted. Didn't know I existed. Didn't know his own kids called me Dad. I didn't want to believe it. But deep down, I'd always wondered how little Dana ever talked about their father. He left, she said. He doesn't matter. But Luis had receipts. Old photos. DNA test results he'd tried to initiate years ago. Danae had refused. Legal requests she'd dodged. He told me, man, I just want to know them. That's all. I didn't know whether to punch a wall or break down crying. Dana hadn't just used me, she'd erased another man's entire paternity to keep full control. Lied to him, lied to the kids, lied to the courts. I called my lawyer again, told him everything. He was silent for a second, then said, this changes everything. And it did, because now I wasn't the only man who wanted custody. I had just become her second courtroom. Problem, there's a kind of pain that doesn't scream. It just sits with you, quiet, heavy, like wet clothes on cold skin. That's how it felt. When I realized the last 6 years of my life had been built on a lie, I didn't even know I was in. Luis wanted to meet the kids. Of course he did. He had every right to, and I didn't want to stand in his way. But selfishly, it felt like I was being pushed out of my own life. Again, Dana used the chaos to twist the knife even deeper. She told the kids I'd lied. Said I was trying to replace their real dad, and now I was panicking because I was being caught. I could feel it in their text, short, confused, distant. Mia used to send me voice notes at bedtime. Now, silence. Jordan didn't even wish me happy birthday. I stopped eating, stopped answering calls. My boss noticed, gave me a week off unpaid. Said, you're not here, man. Whatever's going on, fix it. I didn't even have a bed anymore, just a mattress on a buddy's floor. I was 29. Job on the line. No partner. No kids. A man with legal paternity and no actual family. For the first time, I questioned everything. Was I just a stand-in? A placeholder until she got her degree, her independence, her freedom? Had I loved them too much? Or just wrong? One night, I opened the shoebox I kept under the bed school drawings. Birthday cards, that world's best dad mug Jordan gave me, and I cried. Not like a tough guy. Not like a grown man. Like a parent grieving children that were still alive? I thought that was the end. But then my phone buzzed. A number I didn't recognize. The voicemail changed everything. The voicemail was from Mia's school counselor. Her voice was calm, but layered with concern. Hi, this is Ms. Landry. Mia asked if you were still coming to her recital next month. She mentioned she hasn't seen you, and she seems confused. I just thought you should know. I played it 3 times, each time gripping my phone tighter. She remembered me. She still wanted me there, even after all the poison Dana had poured into her ears. That one message snapped something back into place. I wasn't done. I wasn't defeated. I made a list that night, every dollar I'd ever spent, every field trip form I'd signed, every daycare, payment, grocery receipt, therapy session, birthday gift, and dentist appointment. I called my old landlord for lease records, my HR department for payroll stubs. I even found a blurry photo of me pushing Mia's stroller during a school fundraiser Dana never showed up for. I gathered everything, and then I called my lawyer. We're not just defending anymore, I told him. We're filing for joint custody. I didn't argue, just said, good, it's time. Dana didn't see it coming. When she got served, she messaged me one line. Really? You want to play this game? I didn't respond. In court, she was smug, at first, till my lawyer submitted a 43-page document of financial evidence, parenting proof, and character witnesses, teachers, neighbors. Even the school nurse testified about how I was always the one bringing the kids in when they were sick. Dana's face cracked when the judge said, I don't see an absent father here. I see a man trying to do the right thing. The court granted temporary joint custody pending further review. It wasn't full custody, but it was the first win I'd had in months. And it gave me something even more important than a legal victory. Hope. 3 weeks after the court ruling, I got a call from the kids' elementary school this time. It wasn't a counselor, it was the principal. We need you to come in, she said carefully. There are some discrepancies in the guardianship records. When I arrived, they handed me a folder. Inside were grant forms, tuition waivers, and emergency medical authorizations, signed by Dana, all listing me as the legal guardian, but none of which I had ever seen or signed. She's been using your legal status to claim assistance, the administrator explained. We have records where she claimed to be a single co-parent with shared custody even before the court finalized anything. I stared at the papers, heat rising in my chest. So while she was ghosting me, blocking calls, and dragging me through court, she was still using my name when it benefited her. The kicker. They played me a voicemail Mia had left on the school line after a recent office visit. I don't want Mom to know, I called him, she whispered, voice shaking. She gets mad when I talk about Daddy Mark. My throat closed up, even now after all the manipulation, the lies, the alienation. Those kids still remembered who showed up, who tucked them in, who stayed. The school launched an internal review. Dana was temporarily suspended from PTA activities and barred from accessing school records without a co-signature from me. She called that night in a rage. You're sabotaging me. I stayed quiet. I should have never let you near them. This is all your fault. No, I said calmly. It's yours. She hung up, and for the first time, I didn't feel guilty, or sad, or broken. I felt steady, because people were finally starting to see the truth, and she was finally losing control. She showed up at my door, just before sunset. No warning, no text, just her standing there in the golden light. Mascara streaked and hair pulled back like she hadn't slept. She looked smaller, somehow like the walls she built were starting to collapse in on her. I didn't say anything, just stepped aside. She walked in slow, like she didn't recognize the place anymore. Same couch, same coffee table, same shelf of drawings the kids made, still framed above my desk. I didn't come to fight, she said, voice low. I'm tired. I nodded once. Me too. We sat on opposite ends of the couch, a chasm between us that felt wider than the Grand Canyon. She stared at the floor. I don't know why I pushed you away. When I got that job, when I started feeling independent. I felt like you reminded me of who I used to be. Struggling, broke, dependent. Her voice cracked, and I hated that version of me. I swallowed hard, but said nothing. After a pause, she added, You were a good father. Better than I ever expected. Better than I deserved. I looked at her. Then why'd you try to destroy me? She didn't answer. Instead, she reached into her purse and pulled out a thick envelope. Slid it across the table. I signed off. You have full joint custody now. No more battles. I picked it up with shaking hands. My name, the court seal. Her signature, just like that. The war was over. Before she left, she turned to me one last time. Do you think they'll hate me? I didn't have it in me to lie. I don't know, but I won't teach them to. She stood there a moment longer, then nodded on, walked out the door for good. No screaming, no dramatic exit, just closure. After Dana left my doorstep, everything felt quiet, not empty, not sad, just quiet. I didn't blast music, didn't call anyone to celebrate. I sat on the couch, papers still in hand, and let the silence settle around me like a weighted blanket. For the first time in years, no one was asking me for money, rides, or favors. No one was pulling me in 10 directions. I was alone, but I wasn't lonely. I started therapy that week. Real therapy. The kind where you sit across from someone who doesn't take sides, just listens. I talked about the adoption, about the betrayal, about the kids, about who I was before all of this, and who I hoped I could still become. I also started journaling. The first sentence I wrote was, I showed up, even when I wasn't wanted. Eventually, I started a blog anonymous, at first called Stand-in Dad. I thought maybe a handful of people would read it. Within 2 weeks, I had hundreds of comments. Men, women, foster parents, stepdads, boyfriends, people who had loved children that didn't carry their blood. Thank you, one woman wrote. I thought it was crazy for missing kids that weren't mine. Another said, I raised my ex's daughter for 10 years. She doesn't even remember me now. But I remember her. Every day, I cried reading those comments. I wasn't alone. I wasn't weak. And I wasn't a failure. Loving someone else's kids wasn't foolish. It was brave. Every post I wrote chipped away at the shame. Every message reminded me that fatherhood wasn't about DNA, it was about presence. I still had scars, but I was healing, not with vengeance, not with bitterness, with peace. The kind of peace that lets you look in the mirror and finally say, you did your best, and that was enough. It's been 9 months since the last court date. The kids spend alternating weekends with me now. We bake cookies, build Lego cities, watch old Disney movies they've already memorized but still laugh at like it's the first time. Mia calls me Dad again. Jordan never stopped. They don't ask about the past, and I don't feed them pieces of it. What matters is they know I never left. Not really. Last week, I got an email from Dana's new attorney. Another request for child support, this time framed as financial realignment for the children's best interest. I read it once. Then I forwarded it to my lawyer and deleted it. No response, no drama, just silence because I don't owe her anything anymore, not money, not explanations, not guilt. I used to think closure came with some dramatic confrontation. A big speech, a courtroom victory, a perfectly timed gotcha moment. But it did in single quotes. It came in the quiet moments. Like when Mia fell asleep on my chest last Saturday after painting my nails purple and green. Or when Jordan whispered, I wish you lived with us all the time. It came when I realized I was no longer trying to prove myself to anyone. Oh, I was already enough. Dana still tries to push buttons sometimes. Petty texts, social media jabs, manipulation dressed as co-parenting. But I don't engage, not because I'm afraid, but because I won. Not the courtroom kind of win, though. That mattered too, but the kind of win where you walk away clean. With dignity, with the kids choosing to love you, not being forced. If you're reading this because someone tried to make you feel disposable, let me be the one to tell you. You're not. You showed up. You stayed. You loved, and sometimes that's the most powerful revenge there is.